Mirror's Edge is a game I've always had a soft spot for. Parkouring across buildings may be common in games nowadays, however Mirror's Edge I feel stands out the most with its more grounded approach, dystopian setting, and unique visuals that still look great today. Well, for the most part. Today I thought it'd be fun to give this game the proper in-depth look it deserves, just so long as you don't mind my lack of skill. Developed by DICE, best known in the gaming community for the Battlefield series, the new Star Wars Battlefront games, and Shrek, wow that's a throwback. I think it's fair to say that first-person shooters dominated the mid-2000s, with the likes of Halo, Call of Duty, or the aforementioned Battlefield, just to name a few. So with that knowledge, DICE set out to make a first-person game that focuses on physics and movement. In other words, a game about parkour rather than just gunplay. Taking inspiration from the Bourne movies, and more specifically, this chase scene from Casino Royale. And in 2008, we would get our first trailer, showcasing everything that this game is all about. Running at intense speeds, climbing over fences and up ledges, zip lines, wall running, daring leaps across buildings, and of course, the absolutely stellar soundtrack by Solar Fields. As the months roll by, we would begin to see more footage showcasing more of the combat, revealing that there is in fact gunplay, however it is not the prime focus of gameplay. Then in the following months, we would be treated to numerous animated trailers detailing the game's world, narrative, as well as our main character's backstory. The game even got a prequel comic series, and it's actually pretty good. It's not essential to the story, but it does provide a decent amount of world building that was absent in the game. It was also nice to see Faith and Kate interact more when they're on opposing sides of the law, and it was also somewhat vindicating to finally find out who Drake was, since he's not in the game, but the characters mention him far more than you'd expect.
Drake's got a job for yourself, so check in with him. Drake's organizing a rifle drop near the new CCC building. Drake's got a location on Jackknife.
Can't. Drake's got me on a job.
I also always wondered what this line meant.
Yeah, I know you hate it, but that fall took you out of commission for a while.
Well, as it turns out, towards the end of the issue, while being chased, Faith falls down an elevator shaft after being shot in the arm. In the final few months before the game's release, we would see more trailers and TV spots, you name it. But then, come November 2008, the game releases for PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360, and on PC in January the following year. Now, I mentioned before that Mirror's Edge is centered around parkour, something that was actually surging in popularity throughout the 90s and 2000s.
Parkour.
In some ways, it could be comparable to skateboarding, which was also a popular craze at the time. Both are a relatively dangerous pastime involving traversing environments with high skill and a lot of forward momentum. So I suppose you could say that Mirror's Edge is like the Tony Hawk games, except that you're traversing with your entire body, rather than with the wood on wheels. Another thing to consider is the fact that parkouring has a somewhat rebellious nature to it, given that it centers around traversing environments in non-conventional ways. I mean, running on cranes and sliding on zip lines are certainly not something you would catch me doing in real life, but in Mirror's Edge, I'm here for it. And you know a game is rebellious when you can do this. Given this game's dystopian setting where media is controlled, citizens are criminalized for refusing to accept the changes, and the copious amounts of propaganda plastered throughout the various elevator rides, the rebellious nature fits in perfectly with how the runners, as they call themselves, fight against the city's regime by pulling jobs for said citizens. As for the other side of the city's society, well, they chose a comfortable life. As the game begins, we must first go through a tutorial level, and while it doesn't overstay its welcome too much, there are a lot of moments where you're forced to stop for a few seconds and then go again when going over each move. That being said, this is certainly not a pick up and play kind of game, as there are a lot of moves you will need to know, specifically running on walls and maintaining your momentum for longer jumps. They also contextualize it well enough by saying she's been out of commission after her injury at the end of the comics. Throughout this tutorial, we're introduced to Celeste, a fellow runner who gives us the basic rundown of the game's mechanics: running, jumping, vaulting, swinging, tightrope walks, shimmying, and punching doors open because that's just more fun than opening, I guess. You'll also learn that pressing the slide button allows you to perform a somersault when landing from great heights, keeping all your forward momentum while remaining completely unharmed. Wall running, while cool and useful, can leave a bit to be desired, as it has always felt like a crapshoot on whether it will actually work properly. One last move is called coil jumps, where you hold crouch immediately after a jump, allowing you to leap over various obstacles, while also maintaining your momentum. Celeste will also show you how to handle combat situations with simple punches, slide kicks, and jump kicks. However, we're also shown we can disarm our enemies by pressing the Y button when the gun goes red. Although be warned, the timing on handguns is very forgiving. When it comes to the bigger guns, you'll barely even have a second to react. Luckily, however, by pressing the X button, you can enter slow motion, allowing for much better reaction time. Unless you're me. With all that out of the way, we begin the game proper as we follow Faith on the job and we get a good look at the lovely view. It's at this point where I have to mention just how truly stunning the visuals are. The game's color palette, while limited, just has a distinctive look that adds to the game's identity, with the emphasis on white and red. White being used as the prime color for a lot of building interiors and exteriors, whereas red is used to signify importance by highlighting interactability and where you must go, which is actually known as runner's vision in the game's world, so that's cool. And when you consider the amount of games from this generation that relied on this overly washed out, dark, dingy, brown or grey color aesthetic, Mirror's Edge stands out amongst the rest. And the game's beast lighting system is just the cherry on top when it comes to the visuals, creating a unique art style that has aged gracefully. Barring a few exceptions, like what the hell happened here? Jesus guys, dial it back a bit. And as the soothing music begins, the atmosphere, man. It just hits you like a train. Overall, there's not much to say about this chapter, as it's just the prologue, but it does showcase that throughout many sections, the levels will offer you more than one way to handle a situation. You're going to take that simple path and climb that there? Why do that when you can wall run here? You're going to take the slow as hell stairs to escape? Why do that when you can do this? You're going to go through that door? Hell no, I'm more of a jump from window to window kind of guy. Quick, jump from here to escape on the train. Pfft, boring. Everyone knows zip lines are much cooler. Oh, well, when you actually grab them, that is. See what I mean? And those are barely scratching the surface, as each area allows for experimentation, especially in the game's time trials, which we will certainly get to. So in summation, maintaining flow with style is key, and in Mirror's Edge, the sky is the limit. Ignore that. So as we traipse across the city, we have a run-in with the city's police force known as the CPF, City Protection Force. Wow, great name. Thus beginning one of the game's many chase sections, throughout which you are given the choice on whether or not to engage with the enemy. But it's usually best to avoid them so to not disrupt your flow. Plus the combat isn't much of a highlight anyway, and sections like these showcase that if you do stick around and fight, you'll be very easily outnumbered and pretty much dead in a few seconds. Picking up enemy guns is cool, and I do like that you only get one round before needing to switch to another, or just toss it aside. It makes you think up your approach a bit more, while also occasionally putting you on edge. Having the choice to do a pacifist run is cool, but the game gets so brutal in a lot of sections, especially towards the end, even on normal difficulty. How is anyone expected to do a pacifist run on hard mode, if it's even possible? Other than that, your only other attacks are the ones I mentioned earlier, plus this instant takedown move you can use if you get enough height and then press attack at the right time. Another thing to note with the presentation is that a majority of the story is told through these 2D animated cutscenes. And I really like the style of these cutscenes. I used to not care for them, but they've really grown on me over time, even if there are a few moments where the animation can look a bit off.
And right now, I think I'd be doing the city a favor.
So we start the story off with Faith eavesdropping on her sister Kate, going to visit a man named Robert Pope, a running candidate for mayor, as well as an old friend of their dad's.
Hello, sis.
You there, kiddo?
Hey, Merc.
I bet you're listening to the chatter.
You know me.
We'll try and get some sleep. It's been a rough day. Gonna put the word out tomorrow. See why those blues got itchy trigger fingers. I'll drop by later, okay? And don't chuck that pizza. I like the topping matured.
Matured. Yeah, I know. See you, Merc.
Shots fired. Repeat, shots fired. All units proceed to 56 West Arlen Drive immediately. Proceed with caution.
Kate!
Faith heads off to Kate's location with Merc listening on comms.
Almost there.
Well, anytime you'd like to tell me where there is and what the hell you're doing, feel free.
It's my sister.
Okay. I'm gonna see if I can figure out what's going on. Give me a sec.
When she arrives, she discovers that Pope is dead. Kate claims to have been knocked out and that her gun was the murder weapon, but there's no time to dwell on that as police raid the building.
I'm serious, babe. Remember, they're not playing nice. Get out of there.
Now go! And Faith, thank you.
Through evading gunfire and sliding down lots of buildings, Faith manages to escape the CPF with help from a fellow runner by the name of Krieg. Back at Merc's lair, he, Faith, and later Celeste discuss the mystery behind the new gung-ho behavior of the CPF. You might think that'd be expected in a dystopian city where runners are criminals and laws are enforced harder than before. However, Faith did say this in the game's opening.
We keep out of trouble, out of sight, and the cops don't bother us.
So that's something to keep in mind for later, as Faith shows Celeste a torn page she got from Pope.
The evidence you lifted?
Yeah, I think it's from a diary. Rest of it was gone. All I can make out are Icarus, maybe, and to the highest.
Icarus. Wasn't he the Greek guy?
Yeah, his dad made him some wings out of feathers and wax. Then the boy flew too close to the sun. And psst, no more wings, no more Icarus.
Merc sends Faith to speak with a former runner known as Jackknife, who Merc claims would have info on this Icarus note due to his alleged contacts. Okay, so the crux of the narrative is to figure out this Icarus conspiracy and how Pope's murder and Kate's frame job fit into all of this. So we're off to a good start, but part of the problem with the story is just how it's structured. For instance, our mission is to speak with Jackknife, but first we must go through this huge sewer system, and then when we find him, he decides to force Faith into a chase, because, I don't know, he likes annoying her, I guess. Then when we catch up to him, he just gives us some vague information about Pope's head of security, and that's kind of it.
You a fan of wrestling, Faith? Pope was a wrestling fan. He even employed an ex-wrestler to handle his security. Travis Burfield used to go by the name of Ropeburn.
Is this going somewhere?
Ropeburn? Well, he's really just a thug who got lucky. And sometimes people are too ignorant to see their place. Always want to swim in the big pond. Never see the bigger fish. If I were you, I'd start with that glorified slab of meat. Happy hunting, Faithy.
When you consider the fact the objective never evolved beyond that and the end result was pretty lackluster, it just makes me wonder if I even accomplished anything through all that. And trust me, that is not a question that will go away soon, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. Instead, let's discuss Faith herself. In the comics, she seems to have a bit of a no-nonsense attitude while also being really good at what she does, which is running. And depending on the kind of player you are, she appears to be relatively competent with multiple types of firearms. Heck, the first ever publicly shown image of the game was of Faith holding a handgun. Other than that, she has the game's logo as a tattoo on her eye, which already makes her instantly recognizable. She speaks in a rather soft and cold demeanor. She loves her sister, is loyal to her friends and seemingly her cause, and she's a badass.
All I care about is Kate, and for her sake, I'm gonna let you go. But if you pull a gun on me again, I will kill you.
And as for the rest of the cast, well, there's not a whole lot to really say. We have Merc, short for Mercury, who is the tech expert and Faith's mentor, communicating with her during gameplay. Kate is a cop and is Faith's sister, and that's it. Lieutenant Miller, who is a cop, Celeste, who is also a runner, and Jackknife, a former runner but a constant nuisance. And that's about it. A small cast of characters isn't the end of the world, but it also doesn't do this game any favors when a majority of them are this underdeveloped, making the world feel rather small and empty. not helped by the vast amount of buildings and public areas we run through being completely deserted. Even if some of the buildings we go through are under construction, wouldn't you expect there to be, I don't know, construction workers? Getting back to the story at hand, we see Faith meet up with Lieutenant Miller, who is apprehensive towards Faith, but he does seem to believe in Kate's innocence, wanting to help her despite being powerless to do so. Faith shows Miller the note from Pope and asks him what he knows about Icarus, and while we don't get an answer, his response dictates he knows something. He then warns her to watch her back as there will be people trying to stop her from finding the truth, and Faith makes her leave.
I owe that much to Kate, but there are plenty of people who'll try, and I can't stop them either. You better learn how to run.
Running is what I do best.
Taking a page from Batman today, are we, Faith? Following that, we now begin our search for Ropeburn, whom we eventually find on the phone to someone, presumably regarding Pope's murder, and some of the things he says do raise an eyebrow.
Now they wanted us to wrap her up all night for those blues. Yeah, so we don't look good for you and your little gang. Take that up and down. See you there. And don't bring any of your friends. We good? Good.
No time to think of that now, as a silent alarm's been tripped, so we gotta make our escape across scaffoldings and cranes, all while being shot at by a chopper. Trust me, this set piece is really intense. Immediately after, Faith decides to have another meeting with Miller, although it doesn't go as well this time as Miller pulls a gun on her, despite previously saying that he wouldn't stop her. He mentions private firms are taking the city's security into their own hands and that they're waiting for the CPF to slip up. Could be their way of looking for an excuse to abolish the force entirely. Faith, not willing to go quietly of course, manages to pull a fast one on Miller, and then he just lets her leave after she practically disarms herself, so that was kind of pointless, don't you think? Now we decide to pay Ropeburn a visit, and we quickly discover him speaking to Miller. Was Miller in on it the whole time? Was Kate wrong about him? Well, we don't know for sure, as right when Ropeburn gets the jump on us, he immediately says this.
He said you can both go to hell. No one threatens me.
Yeah, I'll be okay.
Damn, Faith's gonna have to fight this guy? How much trouble are you gonna have against him, Faith? Apparently none at all. He admits to setting Kate up, and that he hired a professional to kill Pope. Not long after, Ropeburn is shot, falls and dies, and Faith has to escape the Blues once again, leading her to an underground subway station. So we've had jumping onto choppers, skyscraper sliding, attack choppers, and running across cranes. So what's in store for us now? Why, trains, of course. Running across the track, hoping we don't get hit, hitching a ride onto a train, and we barely make it out before being rammed by another train. Jeez, talk about overkill. I mean, I'm assuming there were people in those trains. Now in the clear, we meet up with Celeste, and this is where we get some insight to Faith's backstory.
Everything's changed. The city's different now. I keep thinking of my folks. They thought this place was something worth protecting. Mom and Dad were friends with Pope. Organized protests, lobbied the mayor, took me and Kate on marches. But I never really understood why back then. What it meant.
Merc said your mom died.
She was killed during the downtown riots. Protest marches that went bad.
That's rough.
After that, we, pretty much fell apart. Dad never forgave himself, and I left home soon after. Guess I never really forgave him either.
That's when you met Merc?
He caught me, breaking into his place.
No kidding. You never said that.
He offered to train me. Felt like a good way off the street, so I took it. Not much else going for me.
Next day rolls as Faith heads to the New Eden Mall, where Ropeburn said he'd meet his assassin he hired after he, Yeah, that. This is where things start to heat up much more, as we're almost immediately ambushed by the CPF once again, barely a minute into the chapter. It's especially apparent when you have to escape the mall after discovering it's a trap. and you have to wall run, then grab the pole and quickly grab the ledge, all while dealing with massive machine gun fire. We see the assassin get away, so that was yet another bust. Side note though, I love that you can actually see them running across buildings prior to the mall. So, what's next? Well, go see our friend Jackknife, of course. That was incredible. So Faith assumes, rightfully mind you, that he set her up considering how the CPF were practically waiting for her at the mall. But Jackknife tells her he would have done it himself if he was trying to kill her before leaving. Afterwards, she asks Merc to look into Pirandello Kruger security because she's seen their ads around the city. I'm sorry, what?
Been seeing their name around. In
Burn's office and somewhere else.
Distinctive logo. Getting anything?
Oh, you saw a file of them on Burn's desk. Well, that makes sense. But Faith, come on, you could have easily relayed this information much sooner. Probably would have saved a decent amount of trouble. Hell, why not ask Miller what he knows about Pirandello Kruger? Would he have answered? Probably not, but come on, work with me here, Faith. Yeah, I think it's fair to call that story development a little bit, shall we say, unnatural. So why don't we take a break from the story and instead talk about the one thing that is considered by everyone to be universally amazing, the music. The OST for Mirror's Edge is divided into 4 categories: ambience, combat, chase, and puzzle. The combat and chase themes tend to go for a more high-octane vibe with a fast-paced energy, and they definitely add to the feeling of adrenaline. Now puzzle and ambience, that is where it truly shines. Remember what I said earlier about atmosphere? This is it right here. When you're in these particular sections, the atmosphere just feels so peaceful, yet also kind of futuristic. That's not all though, as even the main menu music has a welcoming and peaceful atmosphere to it. But wait, we're not done yet, as we also have a vocal theme, Still Alive, and my god, what can I say, it really hits all the right notes. And the vocals by Lisa Miskovsky, I hope that's pronounced correctly, well, they just speak for themselves, wouldn't you agree? The music folks in Sweden did not disappoint one bit. Seriously, the soundtrack is some of the best I've heard in a video game, and it deserves more recognition, so absolutely give it a listen. Okay, let's wrap up the story, shall we?
Jackpot. Think I found the nerve center, Merc.
Faith manages to infiltrate the PK facility, and it is revealed that Project Icarus is in fact a training program for the CPF to be efficient in parkour. Doing so will allow them to wipe out the runners once and for all. Not sure what the Icarus connection is there. According to the wiki, the runners opposing the city's authority is the flying close to the sun part, and getting them off the rooftops is akin to removing their wings. I mean, I guess you could look at it that way. Oh well, it doesn't matter that much. As if on cue, 2 of these parkour officers appear, and they give Faith chase. These guys are known as pursuit cops, and let me tell you, they are easily the toughest enemies in the game, as they take far more hits to go down and can take you down pretty easily. You can stay and fight them, and I'm pretty sure you can disarm them by countering their tasers. However, your best option is to definitely get the hell out of there, as that's what I did. And let me ask you, you ever get this intense feeling in a game where you can tell an enemy is chasing you, or is just nearby but you can't see them, or don't know how close they are? Yeah, that's exactly the feeling I got here. Once again, managing to escape via train, Faith heads straight towards the boat dockyards, as she saw security footage of Pope's assassin there. Eventually, Faith finds and confronts the assassin through a really intense boss battle. She gives chase and subdues the assassin, who is revealed to be...
Cell? I tried to warn you off. I'm sorry.
Yeah, Celeste is the assassin. Honestly, I don't know how I feel about that, because it's not necessarily a bad twist in and of itself. The problem lies with this game's small cast of characters, and in turn making the list of suspects pretty small. Jackknife would have been way too obvious regardless of what he said earlier. And who else was there? Miller? I don't think that would have worked. Krieg? We literally saw him for like 5 seconds. So yeah, Celeste works well enough, and it was kind of lightly foreshadowed in a previous scene.
I'll survive. That's what we do.
Survival is overrated. You need to live a little, too.
The runners are screwed. Icarus is just the start. And I want to live, Faith, not just survive.
So overall, it's a twist that works. My only issue with it is that after she reveals they had her kill Pope due to him getting a big head.
His campaign was getting unexpected support, but he got stupid. Started making threats to the wrong people. High-up people.
Celeste is just completely dropped from the story. No joke, the CPF shoot at them, Faith blows them up, she leaves, and Celeste is neither seen nor mentioned again.
Listen, Krieg says Kate's just been tried.
Already?
Wonders of the Swift Justice.
This program, huh? They found her guilty, Faith.
Of course they did.
Convoy's taking her off to jail in less than an hour.
So with Kate already tried and sentenced, our resolve is to free Kate by ambushing her convoy. Krieg has left us a sniper rifle in order to achieve that goal, but the only way to reach it is to go through the dreaded atrium section. Oh god, the atrium section. I'll never forget the amount of constant fails, falls, and deaths when I first played this part. It always haunts me every time I replay this section. I tell ya, if I had a sleep paralysis demon, it would absolutely be the atrium section in Mirror's Edge. Thankfully, the music here is enough to stop me from going completely mental. Considering how much this part of the game lives rent-free in my head, I suppose it's only fitting the music track do the same thing. And I must say, this theme is everything I said earlier regarding the themes of ambience. It's shockingly relaxing when you consider the gameplay it's accompanying. Okay, we finally made it to the top. There's the rifle. Wow, one shot? Really? Is that van made of paper mache, or do we have the deadliest weapon on the planet? I'm no gun expert, but surely it can't be that easy, right? Faith makes it to Kate, who for some reason is still in her police uniform.
Take this. It's Merc. He's a friend. He'll guide you away from here. I'll lead the blues away. Come and find you later, okay?
Later that evening, Faith arrives back at Merc's, only to discover him wounded, and he tells her Kate was taken to the Shard before succumbing to his wounds.
Shit, Merc. Let me get someone, a doctor.
That ain't gonna happen, Faith.
I'm sorry, Merc. I'm so sorry.
No sorries. Just don't let them win.
I won't, Merc. Promise.
Thanks, kiddo.
Okay, we're in the home stretch now, the last chapter. We've got to infiltrate the Shard and fight our way through some of the most difficult combat sections in the entire game.
Good work. Check her.
Gonna shoot me too?
No.
Miller reveals to Faith that he was gathering information from Ropeburn that day we saw the two of them talking. It turns out their plan was to frame a CPF cop, and that Kate was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. Something Celeste also alluded to. So Faith and Miller team up as he guides her to the roof, destroying the servers to do so. We make it to the roof and it's Jackknife holding Kate at gunpoint. Oh wow, I didn't see that coming. Revealing that he's been working for Mayor Callahan and that the ultimate endgame is to essentially wipe out any remnants of the old city.
You can't live on the edge all your life, Faith. Sooner or later, you have to jump.
So run, jump, slide, jump, swing, kick, boom, you're dead, see ya. All's well that ends well, right? I mean, sure, if you don't consider the fact that the runners seem to be spread thin. Project Icarus is seemingly a go, making them an even bigger target. Kate's still wanted for murder, Merc's dead, and Miller is probably dead.
Sounds like they've taken Kate to the roof. They've got a chopper coming in. You'll have to be quick. What the...
So, yeah. Although on a somewhat positive note, it's revealed during the credits that those servers we destroyed earlier were actually being used to listen in on citizen communications. So it's nice to know we managed to deal some kind of blow to the city regime. Because when you consider everything else, we barely accomplished anything. The story was just kind of all over the place. The structure made the progression feel kind of aimless, not helped by the numerous times characters won't elaborate on information. I know I sounded pretty negative, but I do find this game's world interesting. It's just a shame the story missed the mark in a lot of areas. DICE apparently had to leave a lot of concepts on the cutting room floor. Small things like unused weapons, textures, and character models. Rope burn was planned to be an actual boss fight. However, what was cut for the final boss really caught my attention. Originally, Jackknife was to hover about in the air and shoot at you, while Faith battles a horde of every enemy type until eventually killing him like the base game. That explains why those goons at the end just miraculously disappeared. Thankfully on PC there is a mod that restores this fight, and man, it's a shame this wasn't used for the final boss, as it's a far more climactic showdown than the one we got. It even retains cut lines of dialogue throughout this section. All in all, I feel like Mirror's Edge is a game with some really fun, cool, and unique ideas, but it just missed the mark on reaching its full potential. Not helped by its incredibly short length. But hey, length isn't everything, right? As many games can have fun side modes to always come back to, right? Well, as a matter of fact, yes, as the game not only has a full speedrun mode of each individual chapter, but there are also these time trial obstacle courses based on multiple sections of the game. I'm gonna say it now, these are tough. Really, really tough. Not only will you need top tier skills and precision, but you also need to have the entire area memorized just for even a chance of getting 1 star, let alone 3. Okay, that might be an exaggeration. Not all of these are soul crushing, but the ones that are will really test you. And if you're a completionist, expect there to be a lot of sweat and dehydration. I mean, this isn't even my gameplay. You think with what I said about the wall running earlier that I'm gonna have the skills to accomplish this? I think not. So in short, watch yourself. Same goes for the chapter speedruns, although to a lesser degree. Don't have much to say as I never once attempted these until making this video. I just couldn't help but think I'd be falling to my death non-stop, instantaneously killing my run. The game also got a DLC known as Pure Time Trials, which, by the looks of it, was made for only true masters of the game. I wouldn't know as I never bought it, and with the 360 store shut down from last year, the chances are I never will, but I wouldn't quote me on that. The overall reception of this game is rather mixed, as while it has garnered a cult following in the coming years, many were critical of its short length, clunky combat, and trial and error gameplay. But it did receive praise for its impressive visuals and just overall immersion, managing to garner a 79 Metacritic score and selling over 2 million units. So with numbers like that, you would assume DICE and EA would get to working on a sequel straight away, right? Maybe tie up some of those loose plot threads, am I right? Unfortunately, that never happened. My only guess is that the sales projection just wasn't what they were hoping for, so the plans for a sequel just never came to fruition. It's a shame really, because the game had a great base to build upon, and any flaws could have been rectified or expanded upon. Even so, despite the lack of a proper continuation to Faith's original story, despite any gripes I may have, I still love this game. It's unique in many ways, the soundtrack is phenomenal, and the parkour gameplay continues to be tense and engaging. Mirror's Edge has managed to gain a decently sized following, and is still remembered and loved by many people to this day, which I think is enough for me to say, DICE were really onto something here. Hey guys, I'd like to thank you sincerely for watching this video. Feel free to comment your thoughts down below. Look forward to more reviews down the line, as there will be many more to come. The next video, of course, being the oh-so-divisive reboot Mirror's Edge Catalyst, so look forward to that very soon. But as for now, stay cool and take care.